an introduction to you. Okay. Yeah, thanks. So we're very privileged to have visitors from Top End. The next performance is, or the next presentation I should say, is Public Arawirr, or Didjeridu programming in national and international contexts from 1960s to the present. So we welcome Rupert, Renfred and Jenny Manmurulu, Tamia Fejo, Fejo. I did practice, but, and Shannon Lee. And we also have Amanda Harris from the University of Sydney and Reuben Brown, who's going to further these introductions. Please make them welcome.
Thanks so much, Shane. We just want to begin by acknowledging the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation on which we meet here. And we also want to acknowledge all of the Indigenous mobs that are participating in this symposium and their ancestors. We particularly want to say thank you to Jacinta and Sian and Uncle Greg, who we didn't get to meet yesterday, but we thank you for your welcome and for welcoming us here on your country, and also for this beautiful ochre that you've shared with us. This presentation that we're going to give, it comes out of quite a long collaboration over a number of years, probably starting in terms of Isabel's connection with the group right back in 2006, and then my connection as well from about 2011. And hopefully, as you'll see along the way, you'll also see how this collaboration between arawirr, mob from Goulburn Island, Indigenous people, as that's the word for Indigenous in the Hmong language, and Balanda, settler European linguists and musicologists and others, has really expanded over the years through the generous openness, collaboration and willingness to teach and learn from these manyardi leaders. And a special mention today to the late Nawamut Najalama Goodness Manmurulu, who was husband for Jenny and father of Rupert and Renfred. We remember him. He passed away 2 years ago now, and he was a big part in this collaboration as well. So, yeah. I will now hand over to the Warawirr mob to introduce their songs before we move into a bit of a story about how this collaboration that we're doing today connects with some performances that were staged in the past.
Hello. My name is Rupert Manmurulu. I'm the second eldest son for Mom Jenny, and he's my little brother Renfred. Alongside with him, he's got his daughter Tamia, and we brought our cousin brother along with us, Shannon Lee. He's the #1 didjeridu player back at Warawirr. So I'll just quickly introduce ourselves. Jenny Manmurulu, that's our mother. She's a marriage lady. That's we call it skin group, moiety and kingship. And she's a warrior lady. Stone. Warakak means a black crow. Also, we've got Tamia. She's a Yungu lady. Means fire. And she's a sea eagle. And she's a Yalama clan. That's our skin group, our country name, Yalama. And our clan group is Nudigin. And myself, Rupert Manmurulu. Um,
I'm Renfred Manmurulu, and this is our cousin brother Shannon, and his clan group is Maningali.
Kingship moiety, he's
Pandanus.
Pandanus, and he represents white cockatoo. Yep. So he's a Morala person, meaning Pandanus, and me, Mom, and Renfred, we
The Rock.
the Rock.
So there are 4 totems that represent our skin groups and moiety. The fire, the sun, Pandanus, and the rock.
And now we're going to talk about Didjeridu. Didjeridu, it's a mermaid song. It's sung by our granddad, and then our father, to us two.
And then we're passing it on to our elder sons that they're continuing singing every now and then when we're not around. We got Shannon here, who is actually a didgeridoo player.
So in the old photos, you got our granddad in black and white picture. That's George Winunguj. And then you got my dad with the white and yellow ochre. And then 6 years later, that's me there. And then that's me and Renfred in Thailand. And then you got the ladies dancing. You got Tamia teaching Ruth, Jane, and Isabel down in Melbourne, University of Melbourne. And then you got Mom Jenny with the ladies dancing as well. We were presenting a mamurung for Reuben.
So I'm the lead dancer for the Didjeridu, and I teach not only my grandkids, but a lot of ladies and young kids. And also I'm a teacher and I teach cultural activities at the school too. Thank you.
And what do we?
At Wadawee.
And did you want to just mention the other song sets at What Do We too?
As you can see on the picture over there, there's other singer men that are singing. So one is Milliarder, the ibis bird, or Ingrid.
So the old man with the maroon shirt, he's singing Manyardi. That's Ingrid. That's our big sister's song. And also, Brother Shannon, that's his mom's song. So he's the next generation. He's going to be becoming a singer very soon. And then we got Miritpu, that's Yalargugu. And Anaru, that's the other song from North Australian. And then you got Marokara.
That's Harold Waterby singing.
Yeah, that's our uncle sing Marokara, that's the Gawena. And then you got Didjeridu, and also we've got Nginji, the giant dance.
So all these songs are performed together in manyardi ceremony at Wadawee Goulburn Island, and arawirr, and singers support each other to sing together in ceremony. So Rupert, you might be called upon to bamboo for, say, Solomon, or so it's a shared performance context in which these songs are performed.
Yes, Reuben was talking. Back in the community, we all support each other. So, say when our dad went, he was living in Dialyzing, and we had a couple of the old fellas in that photo that they were supporting me and Renfred. They were telling us to keep on singing, and they said, "Our old men not here anymore. It's up to you guys to, step up, take on to the next level."
Which we did. We stood up from all those encouragement from those old peoples. Yeah.
And it's not only that, at the age where my sons were teenage, when the grandfather was ready to say farewell to us all, and he said, "Whatever happens to me, just carry on singing, long as your dad will help and support. So that's George Winunguj, my father-in-law, and the one in the yellow shirt, that was my late husband, David.
So this, the picture in the, behind us, that was presented with Mamurung for Reuben. The Mamurung is the one that you go up the stairs, and you can see it on your right-hand side as you're going up.
If you're coming down, it's on your left-hand side.
Just over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is when we all met together and we started this collaboration. It came out of an ARC project led by Linda Barwick and Alan Marrett, and Amanda Harris was also part of it. And I was a student, a PhD student, and I was also the youngest member of the group, the receiving group of the Mamurung. So as the youngest member and the recipient, my hair, a lock of my hair was cut, unbeknownst to me as to what would happen, and passed on, and later woven into that Mamurung that you see on the steps, and then handed back to me. So
And I was surprised I've seen my clapstick hanging on the side.
yeah, so really important symbolism in terms of trust, which set the foundation for our collaboration over the years as well.
It's like, I met Reuben in 2011, and that's where I've showed a bit of a video that Isabel have recorded with the Nginji Mamurung, and then that's where Alan Merritt said, oh, I better cut a little bit of Reuben's hair, and Reuben didn't even know anything till he got surprised when they were all coming down to Warrawee for his special event. Mamurung, it's like a gift where people choose different songs that they give and come and dance
Like
for them.
we invite them to come to the community. It's like you're sending off an invitation, you know?
For an exchange ceremonial gift.
So yeah, an exchange of performance and a number of gifts, material and others are presented, yeah.
That's your narrow bit. You're talking about that,
So that's me on the photo. Reuben and I, we went and I showed him which tree that I cut to make the clapstick and the didjeridu.
And this is just to sort of emphasise that there's quite a lot of growing literature out there, and I think we've seen it in this symposium as well, about the relationality of Indigenous knowledge, the fact that it is
So as you
held.
can see the picture of the clapstick that I'm holding, and as you're walking up, you can tell that's my clapstick. That's how I design my clapstick.
There's two types of woods that we go and cut. One is iron tree,
Ironwood tree.
and another one is a casuarina tree. To make the clapsticks. The other one is a string.
And with the didjeridu, we just call it a stringy bark tree.
Yeah, stringy bark tree. So we go find a hollow tree. Sometimes you might not see a hole on top. You just tap it with the axe, and you can hear it. Sometimes those ant pit coming down.
Don't believe him because he don't make didjeridu, only me. Nah.
So they have to tune the didgeridoo when they. So they have to tune where a guitar have things where you have to, but with didgeridoo they have to just use their head and knowledge.
Just by listening to the didgeridoo with our voice, that whether it suits with it or not.
And while we've been working on Maung language and manyardi, we've, together with other linguists, Isabella Keith and Ruth Singer and Jenny, we've transcribed some really lovely expressions that capture some of this relational knowledge. Perhaps, Jenny, you could talk about the Gangmalangulin one example.
Gangmarangulin, it's all about when we hear the song and we memorize it back how we grew up or where we went and spent our time with family or the loved ones, and it brings back a lot of memories. And no matter what type of songs that they sing.
So that word, Kangmarangolan, means remembrance.
So like the song that we're going to be singing for you guys today, and when we go back home, maybe next year or the year after, when we have funerals and all stuff like that, and when we sing our song Sinjalarku, maybe this song that we're going to sing today, when in the long run that we're going to be singing, it'll be like, Kang Marangolin, it'll bring back memories that this song we sang in Sydney,
And like we had a funeral of my poison cousin back at Wadawee a couple of weeks ago, and when the boys sang, and nearly most of the family was saying, it brings back memory that their father not here, but it was really important what they were saying, and it did bring back memory most of the time, where sometimes I don't want to hear it, I just go home or I just sit there really quiet because of my husband.
Yeah. Powerful, strong memories. And it can also relate to seasons too, right? And to to place, like a time of season.
Yeah, time and place. Like we just mentioned earlier, probably say in the future, we might sing the songs. We might remember, this is the song we sang in Sydney. Yeah. Like this time of the year.
Yeah. Now, I'll just hand over maybe to Amanda.
So that photo up there is George Winunguj, who you already saw in some of the earlier pictures, performing with the Adelaide Wind Quintet in 1971 at the Musica Viva Festival. And this came about through George Dreyfus with the Adelaide Wind Quintet travelling up to Yirrkala in northeast Arnhem Land. And Winunguj was there when, we think, we're sort of, we know he was there then. We're not exactly sure when a recording was made of him singing, but we know that he was there then, and they heard his playing and singing, and it was the catalyst for creating this work, which in 1971 was quite a remarkable collaboration, where George Dreyfus, George Winunguj collaborated in producing a scored work for the Adelaide Wind Quintet and Winunguj to play together in what became a wind quintet, a wind sextet. And this, it was recorded at the time. It was also performed at the festival, and it has had further performances, but the generative kind of event that produced that work, that still in some ways is really unique in the history of sort of all of the different efforts at musical collaboration and efforts that non-Indigenous composers went to think about engaging with Aboriginal music in the 60s and 70s and beyond. This work really stands out as one that was produced in a different way, and George Winunguj was a real catalyst for that work being produced. And so that's an article about that premiere, and I think some of you might want to talk about that particular performance as well. Or there's also this article that was published in Dawu magazine, where Winunguj is talking about the sound of the didjeridu overseas, and it's a real sort of story about what the didjeridu practice is, the sort of deep and rich practice and varied practice of playing that instrument that's called many different things in many different places. And he particularly makes a point here about the difference in playing in Wadawee or in Western Arnhem Land and in Northeast Arnhem Land practices, and tells some of the stories associated with those playing. And we mentioned a few other players in our abstract who also performed publicly in this period, and we've been watching and listening to some of that footage together as well. So it's a real sort of, telling a story about this larger practice that's really coming onto the public stages at that time in around the 1970s. And that one there, this is another program that I haven't been able to find out that much about the event itself, but it's sort of a remarkable one in that Winunguj is collaborating here with Gubala Taldin, who is also known as Dick Ruffsey from Mornington Island. Both were involved in founding the Aboriginal Theatre Foundation, which is a really major performing ensemble. I'm going to talk a bit more about them tomorrow. But also really key activists from that time. Charles Perkins was involved with this, and also Kath Walker, Udru Nunukal, very famous poet. She was very famous at the time. And so this sort of production of bringing Aboriginal people together from all around the country to collaborate on a performance was another one of the remarkable things that George Winunguj was involved in. And he says here, this is a profile of the people involved in this performance, and under the description of Winunguj, it states that he's a tribal elder from Goulburn Island. He was also a regional supervisor of Christian education for the Methodist Church in Arnhem Land. And then at the end, there's a very strong statement there. It talks about a production he's putting together, a dance drama called The Land Is Not Empty. And then this statement from him, that his present concern is to see that all Aboriginals hear and see the story, that they have a great culture of dignity, not to be lost or forgotten. And this is, one version of that message in writing, but we really see this carrying on of performance in a more embodied and living way in the other things we're talking about today.
Yeah, so these are some of the other performers that were part of that, those performances that you mentioned, Amanda. David Blanasi in particular, who's descendant from Shannon Lee here. And perhaps we can just listen now to the recordings that Winunguj made. And in particular, I think it's worth noting Winunguj is, I imagine, providing this recording without any accompaniment, any ngananka, like clapsticks, which is the Maung word for clapsticks, or arawirr. But he's actually singing the arawirr part, and he's integrating it into the song. And this is a kind of a practice that, that Arakbi have done for many years. Is sort of how you teach and how you pass on the songs, especially when you're teaching the arawirr player the didjeridu part, if you're a songman.
Yeah, like you sing at the same time, and also you're demonstrating the arawirr part, the didjeridu part too at the same time. So
yeah.
When you're ready, Reuben.
what you thought when you first heard that, that recording.
Yeah, when we first heard it, it was the didjeridu part was more like that.
Like it's different than we sing nowadays.
Yeah.
Because that song we haven't heard it. Both me and Renfred, and maybe even Mum too. And say maybe that song from late 40s, early 50s, and then the song that we sing, me and my brother, it's maybe the late 60s and 70s. And then we got a song similar to what you heard from our granddad, and our dad sang it in 1995, and it sounds similar.
But pretty much straight on, the one Dad was singing, this one that was played, it's more tricky.
Yeah. So like the song that we just played, it goes. And then from the latest one, as I said, and with Dad, it's you will hear it. We'll play for you guys maybe later on.
So, while we were discussing some of these old recordings and these old performances, Rupert and Renfred and Jenny talked about some really important, I guess, ethics around how these songs are shared and how the arawirr part in particular is shared. Did you want to? So Rupert said that we can share our dance moves, but you can't keep it and share it to somebody else without our permission. So when we're going to perform today, and the group have invited me and others to come and join in and dance, that's about sharing the culture and sharing story. But there's, I think you mentioned too, you can't plagiarize it. You can't extract that and put it into another recording. And I think we just wanted to mention that because it's quite an important principle, that people follow in
it is a very
manyardi tradition.
Yeah, like basic, not really basic, but like performance. The way you can't grab it and then use it in another way and try and make your own way, the songs and stuff like that. No, it's plagiarism, or sometimes it's copyright. In that way.
I remember one time when we was over in Derby in Monyum, one of the fellas said, I'm going to sing your songs, And I told him, nah, you can't do that. If you want to, you can't sing it, but you have to give me your daughter or your niece to marry me, so the next generation can be your grandson, He can sing, because, goes through the bloodline.
Yeah, it's like trading stuff, you want this, well, you got to give this.
And it's relational too, right?
Yeah, in relation. Yeah.
Because it's a spiritual song that we can't, like they can't pass it on to an ordinary person.
No.
It runs from generation to generation.
Yeah, so most of all, Injalargo is a spiritual song that we sing. It's not just any songs that we just make it up. No, it comes through our dreams, and we bring it out, and then we sing.
And so in some of the contexts in which we've shared, in which this group have shared manyardi to wider audiences, in reflecting on the theme of this conference, I was thinking about how it's really brought about some interesting innovations in the performance context. So one example was when we went to Manyardi in the Kimberleys for the Manyardi Festival, and the group shared their songs, their manyardi, with the Junba singers there, and Jenny shared her knowledge of the women's dances to the children there who learnt those dances and then performed them at the Monyardi Festival. And then we went on to a conference in Bangkok in Thailand, and we sort of had to improvise a little bit because we were just a group of 4 there, including Isabel, and we were able to teach the conference participants as well to dance and join in there, and also we had help from the Kimberley mob that came. So we had some members of the Kimberley group that came with us and helped out to perform as well. So we sort of, it was like expanding the group. And then maybe Tamia, you can talk about how you've been sharing manyardi on Boon Wurrung country in Melbourne as well.
So in these photos here, I have me and 2 of the other Warrawee girls who went to school with me. In the middle picture, which school? St. Leonard's College in Melbourne. And so we were showing the younger children how we, like what we learned from family and like watching all the women how they dance. And we also helped with Isabel as well, showed her at the Welland Centre, and showed one of the teachers who helped me and 2 of the girls as well. And how we like continued on with our culture is that Ruth Singer, one of the linguists, came to St. Leonard's and helped us with language. And yeah.
Before we send our 2 girls at St. Leonard's, but we had to make a joint connections where we didn't want our girls to lose their culture and language. So when they went to that school, they were learning Hmong language, and when we traveled down in Melbourne to perform and do the similar thing what we're doing now, and they used to send the kids with Jane. She had to talk to the principal, and he was happy to bring the girls over to Welland Centre.
This is the Welland Centre for Indigenous Arts and Culture in Melbourne, and so those performances were staged in the South Bank campus, and that was really kind of negotiated too through an engagement with Carolyn Briggs there, who's Boon Wurrung elder, who sort of initiated that relationship as well. So that was kind of what brokered, and Tiriki Onus as well, the head of the Welland Centre. So yeah, these are all the relationships that are wrapped up in the performances that take place when manyardi leaves the community.
Yeah. Also, in the middle photo there, I had to organize with the principal in St. Leonard so that I can bring Reuben in, and we were working with those year 7, was it year 7, Timmy? 5, 6. 5 and 6 kids that we had to show them our culture. And that's when Timmy and others stood up and started showing the other students.
Yeah, so the students teaching the teachers. And then in Lisbon, recently as well, in Portugal, Rupert and Renfred shared their songs, and we have Mahesh and Georgia as well, who graciously joined our group and learned Injaladical dance, and helped us to hold a workshop in which we taught Injaladical dance together to other participants who joined in. And there was also a sharing of stories with Marin Naruse from Japan, from Amami Island, and we discussed the shared histories between Japan and Arnhem Land, particularly the pearling histories, and that led to some conversations, and it led to an exchange of songs as well. We'll just play a little bit of that before we finish up. So that performance was then presented in the closing ceremony as a kind of a thank you to a kind of a gift, I guess. A thank you to the hosts. So yeah, this I guess in providing some of these examples and reflecting on the themes of reimagining programming, we really feel that some of these longer term relationships that are and these longer term engagements with the manyardi song tradition that have developed over a decade, they've really enabled some quite positive innovations of performance spaces such as those in Lisbon or in South Bank, or even that one up there in the top left-hand corner, which was at Whopper in Perth for an MSA conference. Jody was involved in that with Ripple Effect Band and others, where they performed manyardi too. They kind of have enabled these reimaginings of these spaces as manyardi ceremony spaces. They weren't necessarily designed for that, but through these different demonstrations of your knowledge and in your openness to share that and bring people into this relational network, we've been able to share those performances in these places and make it part of the program. And it's not always, I wouldn't say it's been always very smooth, like it's sometimes quite awkward, and I've made mistakes as well, I must say, as I learn about manyardi and about how to make these kinds of things happen. But that's important, that it's iterative and that we learn together as we go along.
Yeah, we're both way we're learning, whether in the academic side or even in our side. We're both working together, and that's how of course we make mistakes, but yet we still go through it.
Yeah, a couple of times we were going ups and downs with, as Reuben said. Funniest part, in Portugal, we were drunk. We were crying for Reuben. Oh, sorry, Reuben. But as we said, we were learning each other,
Yeah.
There's another guy who lives in Japan.
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, you guys are great. You gonna come and work with me?" And then we were like, "No, we better not leave Reuben behind, Reuben is our cousin, because we gave him skin name like Balang, So he's our dad's nephew.
Yeah, so he's our first cousin. Yeah, so we kind of scratched our head first. We thought about it, but then we thought, nah. No, we stick to Reuben.
And to be honest, he said, "I'll pay him a big bucks, $1,000 maybe for a one song or one dance, And we were like, no. So we better stick with Reuben.
Just for the record, I had no say. This research collaboration is open. Yeah.
It is important once you work with those linguists and music mythologists, you have engaged with them where you trust, and we follow each other's culture, where they learn more of our Arabic culture and we learn more of their Western culture too.
The Balanda side.
Yeah.
So shall we finish off?
Amanda, you got anything to say? Sorry for being greedy with the mic.
Just one little thing, just that talk, you know, these photos of all these exchanges, you know, when we having all these conversations about the theme of today, of this week, reimagining musical programming, you know, a lot of these performances that some of your ancestors were involved in the 70s were doing these same public sharing, and we see that continuity as well. So, you know, shows that toured with performers from all different parts of Arnhem Land, from the Tiwi Islands, from all over the place, coming together, sometimes learning each other's dances and performing on public stages. And we see this practice happening in all different ways now, and I think that continuity is a very meaningful thing.
So now we might do some manyardi, perform some manyardi, Rupert and Renfred and Shannon, and we invite those collaborators that have been part of our team over the years to come up and join us, and anyone else who feels like joining us as well.
And yeah, we're the third generation from our granddad. So our granddad, which is our awawu, Boinyi means dad, and then that's us too. And then the fourth generation, our eldest sons, they start to sing and play the DJ as well.
So they've started taking over in community when you're not there. Their sons are now singing. So yeah.
Even the girls take over the dancing too. If I'm not there, the girls are happy to get up and start dancing and teach the others.
Don't believe my mom. Nah. next one, ladies, tricky one. We can say the tricky one. Yeah, right. Now one you've heard from our granddad, that's an old version of it. We're going to sing, how do I say it, the latest one. But the didgeridoo is a bit different. Yeah. What you heard, what he was saying, it goes, rhythm, roll, rhythm, roll, rhythm. And from his recording, back in his time, it was, dibble, rhythm, roll, dibble, rhythm, roll, dibble, rhythm, roll. So this one is rhythm, roll, but same sort of, how you say it?
Rhythmic mode?
Yeah, rhythmic mode. Early 80s, maybe, mid-80s, mid-80s. Because as I was growing up, I heard this song. Our granddad was singing, right?
Early 80s.
Yeah, early 80s.
That's when I started
and
learning
the next song we're going to sing, it's from 1995, from Adelaide. Yeah, you guys can hear me? Or do I need a microphone?
Zoom might not.
Ah, okay.
I
Yeah, the last song we're gonna sing, it's a farewell song. Mainly the ladies, they're gonna be they'll be dancing. When our granddad, our wow, passed away in 1994, before we buried him, our dad, he had a dream about this song. So it's a song about our granddad saying goodbye to George Winunguj. Yep.